Today we are doing the very basics of philosophy and Indian philosophy. So we will first understand what is the nature of philosophy, and then we'll understand what is Indian philosophy and what does it entail, what we will be studying. Okay, so you know, just like every living thing out there, plants, animals, humans are hustling every day to survive. We go to job, we work, we cook food, we clean up, we earn money, then we buy stuff, and we just struggle every day. Like, man struggles for existence, but not just man. There are other living beings also. Trees are struggling for water. The roots, go wider and deeper to gain more nutrition, to gain more water from the ground. So trees are struggling, insects are struggling uh, to to feed themselves. uh, Domestic animals are struggling from uh, let's say stray animals we are talking about here. So dogs are struggling with the pollution, struggling with the traffic, struggling with the noise pollution uh, when there are crackers being busted. So every living being on this planet has been struggling. But unlike animals who go by their instinct, animals always go by their instincts. Birds will always fly away when they see a threat. But humans have this wild gift. And what is that wild gift? It is called intellect. We don't just react, we think, we plan, we want to know why are we here, what's the point of all of this, what is the purpose of life, what is at the end of life, is there a god, is there an afterlife? Do animals think of these questions? I don't think so. At least I have not read enough on animals to know, to comment on it, but most probably not, right? Humans do question all of these things. So we are not just trying to live, we are not just trying to survive, we are also trying to understand life. Okay, so we are also trying to understand the whys and hows of our life. And that itch, that desire for answers, that desire for knowing why we are here, is philosophy. That is philosophy, that desire to know why are we here, why are we doing all of this, why are we trying to survive, what will we get if we act good. So all of these questions that, I don't know. I don't know if there are answers uh, that will you know that will solve these questions. So that desire, that wanting to know, is philosophy. That is philosophy in action. So we want to know ourselves, the world, and what it all means, and that fundamental aspect of what makes humans unique. That leap from just being there for survival, or just mere survival, to meaningful inquiry. What is it? Just mere survival to meaningful inquiry. While plants grow and animals act mainly on their instincts, humans possess intellect, which is a remarkable gift that lets us pause and reflect on our existence. So, this intellectual curiosity sparks these deep questions that we just saw, that why are we here, what is the purpose of life, and that each to understand is not just idle thinking. It's, it's a very powerful drive that has shaped cultures, that has shaped beliefs, that has, that has shaped civilizations. So philosophy, when you say, when you think that, is there a god, is there an all knowing being who runs this world, that that takes you to uh, religious beliefs, or that takes you to being agnostic, that takes you to being an atheist. So you answer for yourself, and that has, that that desire shapes your way of being, that makes you religious, or does that make you agnostic, or does that make you atheist. So it will shape you, that desire will shape your personality, and probably the culture around you, the community around you, to act in a certain way. So philosophy emerges as the structured expression of this drive. It's not just an abstract, abstract musing, but a way to wrestle with, way to fight with life's mysteries. Mysteries like the self, what is mean, is there a self, why am I here, what am I, that is the self. So through philosophy, humans become explorers of inner and outer worlds, we can say, or they test ideas, they keep debating on perspectives, uh, they and this search has also revealed some profound human traits, that desire is not merely to react, but to plan and to choose. What should I do, how do I live well, what does it mean to be a good person. So these are the questions that philosophy tries to address, not answer, address, offering tools for living thoughtfully. But philosophy doesn't want us to just exist. Philosophy wants us to create a meaning for the life, assign meaning for this life. In short, humans survive for more than survival. Humans struggle for something more than survival. We have this hunger for understanding, meaning, and connection. So that's philosophy, and that is the nature of philosophy. So the nature of philosophy is primarily inquisitive. Okay. Next is etymology. The word philosophy comes from two Greek words. First is philos. Let me change the color here. Okay, so the first is philos and the second is sophia. The origin of this word philosophy was it did happen in ancient Greece. Okay, and these are Greek, these are notations from Greek language. I knew this because I have done a good amount of lessons on Duolingo. But yeah, you can also, if you are at all interested, you can also um, use any language learning app which you like, and you can learn these are very easy. Actually, Greek notations are not that difficult. So anyway, I digressed. Philosophy comes from two Greek words. One is philos, one is, wait a minute, okay, so one is philos and one is sophia. What does philos mean? Philos mean love, loving, or friend, and sophia means wisdom or knowledge. So let's see, when I say I have cynophobia, this means dogs, and this means scared of. Okay, so I am scared of dogs, that means I have cynophobia. When I say I have cynophilia, I'm sorry, when I say I have cynophilia, that means I have love for dogs. Okay, I have love for dogs. So, phobia and philia are opposite words, right? Philia means love, phobia means, now you will understand that Sophia means, sorry, philos means love and Sophia means wisdom. So what does it make? It makes the word philosophy, which means the love of wisdom. You want to learn more, you want to be wise, you want to understand more, you want more knowledge, you want to be a wise person, you love learning, you love gaining knowledge. That is philosophy. Just as I mentioned, that the desire to know more, the desire to ask questions and try to find answers, try to be wise, try to understand, that's what makes a person philosopher, which means he is fond of gaining more knowledge, he's fond of becoming wise day by day. So that is philosophy. And this curiosity is universal. Nobody is born a philosopher in the sense that having studied or mastered complex idea. But everyone, even young children, naturally, even young children naturally wonders things like why is sun so bright, or how, you know, how how does a bird fly but uh, a goat walks. So what if this happens, what if that happens, that's philosophy happening naturally. So as long as humans are there, philosophy is going to be there, because as long as humans are thinking, philosophy is going to be there. So there is an innate drive to seek truth, meaning, and understanding beyond what's immediately obvious. And philosophy encourages to question everything. Philosophy asks us, question your beliefs, question what you're assuming. Ask yourself, like confront yourself, if, like, is your way of thinking correct or not correct? Is your way of thinking the only way to think of things? Is your way of thinking, uh, it asks you to critique yourself. That is philosophy. And it invites us to explore big questions about existence, about reality, about knowledge, ethics, beauty, and the nature of God, or ultimate reality. So no matter where we come from, everyone at certain point wrestles with these big questions. So, philosophy is more than an academic subject, it's a lifelong practice of being curious, being open minded, being thoughtful. It's the human spirit's way of saying, I want to understand more, I want to see clearly, I want to live with wisdom. And it's a journey anybody can start. You don't have to be a philosopher, you don't have to have a PhD in philosophy to start asking questions, start seeking answers. So I started studying philosophy because I wanted some answers about why some things happen. And I just love philosophy now. And not just, it makes you very uncomfortable. It shows you a mirror. It starts critic. It starts, you start thinking, so thinking as if you have been living in a small pond all your life, and there are so many things to think about when you do certain actions. So it helps you find your own insight. Then comes diversification. So here's when things got interesting. As human knowledge grew, philosophy diversified. So in old times, one person could study everything. Plato, Aristotle, they studied literally everything. Aristotle is there in all of our school subjects. Aristotle is in philosophy. Aristotle is in psychology, maybe maths. He is there, cosmology, He's there in science, he's there in literature, he's there in uh, literary criticism. Everywhere Aristotle is there. But today we cannot do that. I cannot study physics and philosophy and maths and astrology and something else. I cannot do that. But as like what happened is, as new discoveries popped up, people started focusing on specifics: physics, chemistry, psychology. So you name it, you study only that branch. So what happened in Western philosophy is, Western philosophy split into many branches. The branches like metaphysics, epistemology, aesthetics, ethics, cosmology, logic, theology, and so much more. So, metaphysics tells us about the reality. It focuses on what is real, what is not real. And then there are three branches: logic, ethics, and aesthetics. They are combined, they are called axiology. So, ethics talks about morality, theology talks about religion and God and uh, religious ideas, aesthetics talk about beauty, and these are not the only branches. There is political philosophy, there are many other branches there. But that is what happened to Western philosophy. Okay, Indian philosophy does a very similar thing, but it often discusses these angles together and not separately. So what Indian philosophy does here is, when you talk about a school, let's say we are talking about Charvaka School of Philosophy, Indian philosophy. So what will you do? You will study Charvaka's metaphysics, you will study Charvaka's epistemology, you will study Charvaka's ethics. So, like that, you take one philosophy and you apply all ideas to it in Indian philosophy. So, it's a combined approach in Indian philosophy. That's how this, philosophy becomes very giant branching tree, and each branch taking its own pieces of puzzle, but all are uh, connected to the roots. Okay. Now, when we say Indian philosophy discusses problems from multiple angles together, what we mean is that they just don't look at the big question: what is reality? What is self? But they look at it uh, like these questions are not looked upon from a single point of view. Different schools in India openly challenge, openly debate, openly dialogue with each other. So Jainism will ask Buddhism something, Buddhism will ask Charvaka something. So like that it happens, offering a variety of perspectives side by side rather than just picking one right way. For example, when it comes to understanding the self, I will write it here. Okay, so when it comes to understanding the self, Vedanta, what Vedanta will say, Vedanta school of philosophy, Vedanta school will say that Atman, which is, or I can say the true self, is one with Brahman, is one with the Brahman, or what is Brahman? The ultimate reality. So this is what Vedanta will say. But Buddhism can respond to this by saying, hey, actually, there is no permanent self at all. Everything is always changing. Fine. But then Sankhya school comes and it says, Wait, there are two separate realities. One is consciousness and the other one is matter. And these two things are completely different, they are independent. Again, Jainism comes. Jainism says truth is complex. Different viewpoints can be partly correct at the same time, which is uh, we will see when we revise Jainism. It is called Anekanantavada, that different viewpoints can be partly correct at the same time. So if you look at a if you look at an elephant from a certain angle, it is correct for you, and I am looking it from an opposite angle. So that angle, that view is correct from my viewpoint, right? That is what Jainism says. So instead of saying one approach is correct and rejecting all the others, what Indian philosophy does is Indian philosophy lets these voices speak, and they interact, and they ask you to consider the strengths and limits or pros and cons of every angle. And many philosophical texts are written as conversations, even the even Plato's dialogues or Socrates's dialogues. So those come to us from a dialogue, in a dialogue format, right? So many philosophical texts are written as conversations, questions, answers, arguments, rolling back and forth, and the same topic might be discussed in terms of logics, ethics, rituals, experience, metaphysics, and all of these become woven together. So that is Indian philosophy, and it is not about always arriving at one final answer. It's more like standing in a lively marketplace of ideas. When you try different flavors, compare notes, and sometimes even blend perspectives to reach, a richer and deeper understanding, it respects complexity. It acknowledges, okay, fine, there is complexity. And it believes that, fine, truth can be many sided. And it is best when you look at it from multiple directions. So that is diversification.